We are live, Miss Caroline. What's up, y'all? Adam Hoots here, and I got Miss Caroline here with me with AGC. Say what's up to the people, Miss Caroline. Yes, I love it. Super excited to be live streaming here with you today. And this is your first live stream, am I correct? Yeah, I just found that out like 10 seconds before we hit the waves here in the Omniverse. So, y'all chime in, make some comments, tell us that you got Caroline's back and you're going to help us through this, huh? Um, Miss Caroline, I would love for you to just do a quick introduction since I think this thing is being hosted on my kind of platform here. Can you tell the folks who you are and kind of what we're here to discuss today? Yeah, I think first off, thank you for that. That was huge, and I agree with that statistic. And I would say there's probably another 10 to 20% that just aren't willing to admit it. And I think that's important to recognize when we're looking at all this. I think lean construction will help you to identify the gaps in your process and what's happening. However, it's not going to solve it for us, right? I think FMI did another study that said three-quarters of projects are over budget and past schedule, which, when you think about that, and our current practices with how we schedule and plan projects utilizing CPM and the critical path method, we just we're not considering the people who are actually responsible for doing the work. A lot of times we make these schedules a lot too complicated, and they're 80 to 100 pages long, and folks just want to know what they're supposed to do tomorrow, not you know 12, 14, 6 months from now. And so I think it's important that we as construction leaders are able to break those schedules down into smaller batches. And yeah, so what do you got? I guess I've got a few things pulled up that I want to show off, but I would love for you to just kind of start it with whatever questions you might have on tack planning and the similarities to what we're already doing and what's different. That's a fantastic question. Construction supervisor. So if you're a project executive, a project manager, really superintendents, I think is who I speak to the best from a training perspective. I've spent a lot of time in the field getting my boots dirty, trying to understand what makes a really, really good schedule, what makes really, really good planning. And so I would say really targeted at superintendents and those PMs that are on site managing work, but also PXs, folks from marketing. Anybody can really get a lot out of it because we're talking about batching our work, balancing our load, so that we can flow through a project. For me, it's the spread tack planning to everyone. CPM again, we use it because we don't really have anything else. And this provides an alternative, and it really focuses on flow. We help to absorb variation. We find our bottlenecks and we optimize to them. It's all on one page. It's one document that shows, the building broken out into different zones. It shows time across the top, space down the left, and then we're showing activities and relevance to both time and space. And so that's something that CPM just doesn't currently offer. And so the goal is to get more people on board with establishing flow on their jobs through utilizing takt planning. We want to show, hey, takt planning is very simple concept, and when applied with takt construction, it can be a game changer on job sites. 100%. In fact, let's see here. Let me share my screen. Let's make that a little bigger for the people in the back here. So what you're looking at here is a takt plan of what is going to be our training. So this is the agenda, right? And you can see at the top, this is what we call a macro takt plan. And you can see the key topics. We're spending a lot of time on introductions to what takt is and really building trust in the room before we get running too hard on how we experience flow. We're going to do that through some real life examples. And then, all the B's that you see, right? There's one here, one here. Those are buffers. So hopefully we'll take a break if time allows. If not, we may work through buffers because that's what we use to capture any variation that might come up in our plan. And then again, just keep in mind, this is high level, right? This is what we call a macro plan, just to kind of give you a taste of what the day is going to look like. And then we start to really dive into some of the meat, like what is takt planning versus what we're already doing in the industry, which has become standard, the critical path method. And then why is takt planning so important? Before we dive into the science, because yes, we are creating a scientifically best schedule that is available out there. And then we're going to dive into the how. And the rest of the afternoon, we're going to spend really into the trenches, as I'll say. We're going to put our boots in the mud, and we're going to develop a takt schedule in small groups. And I'm going to be there to support the whole thing. And then we're going to reflect back on what we learned. And so you can see, again, this is a norm level. So now we're getting into a lot more specific times and what we're going to be doing as we dive into exactly what does that trust look like? What does that flow look like? What takt, why takt, and et cetera. And so this is really the start or the making of a takt plan. We do have some other takt plans in here, but again, we'll kind of get to that as we develop a little bit more here. What are your thoughts so far? Why do you like the visual? Hey, yeah, and that's the point. We want everybody to see and understand what we're doing on a project site. And so, again, this is just one train. This is the way that I chose to create the agenda. When you put numerous trains together, we start making phases, and then you can really understand what's going to happen on a project site. And you said it. It's simple. It's easy to understand. I would I I would go to say the kinetic learners. So when we can see it, we can touch it. It's easy to comprehend. We're going to catch on a lot quicker. I mean, this is what we do when we read drawings, right? Like, hey, here's 1.0, 1.1. Now I go look at the legend. There it is. It tells me what it is. Boom. Like we're talking in construction language when we're putting together schedules like this. So no, and you're just full of fantastic questions. This is not. This can't be your first time, Miss Caroline. So yeah, there's a bunch of softwares out there. There's Intact as a software, Tacting as a software, T-Modi as a software. There's some other softwares currently being developed, and yeah, we got a whole section dedicated in the training to help you understand what softwares I've got experience with, and which ones kind of work the best from my perspective, depending on your level of maturity with Tact as well. Absolutely. And in fact, I would recommend one specific, likely the Intact app, if you are a beginner, to really just get going. It makes it simple until you start to understand the science behind what we're doing. And then you can float to, like Lean Tact has some really great downloadable Excel sheets that you can go and experiment with for free. And so, yeah, anything from Excel, which again, I still use Excel with the majority of tact plans that I create because I just feel like anybody can use it. And when I turn it over to a client, they can continue to update it based on their daily production and their goals, and they can set milestones from that document. So, yeah, Excel is definitely my go-to, but there are some other softwares that are available. I would bring my laptop. Yes, ma'am. That would another fantastic question. Because again, the goal is for you to get this Excel template and go and start creating tack plans. And we're going to be doing that in real time. If you can't bring your computer, we can still work with you. We're going to have one tack plan per group. Again, everybody's encouraged to bring your computer to download the document, to get this presentation, and get some other resources, for again, all a part of the course that we're offering. That's right. It's 1027, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. in Charlotte, in your offices there in Charlotte. In fact, I will actually put the link out there. You can see there's a link to the training if you want to go and register there. We'd love to have you. Put that out there. Oh, 100%. So I first discovered it at a project for a German automobile manufacturer right down the road from Greenville, South Carolina. Not sure if I'm allowed to talk about it yet or not, but they forced me to use tack planning, and I was not okay with that. I ran a CPM in parallel. I didn't know the system. I didn't have confidence in it. And I'll tell you what, me and my superintendent, Mr. Brett Pittman from DPR, it was an amazing experience. We had 12 areas of the building going on at the same time. Had to close certain before we can open others, and it just worked so smooth. It was so easy to communicate our expectations, not just to the superintendents, but also to the foreman and even the worker. Like anybody can go up there, find the area down the left, look for the time and the right, and understand where that activity is in relation to both the area and the time. And so, yeah, I've seen it successful in a lot of different areas of the country too. In Canada, working with Lean Tact, I've seen some folks at High Street who are doing apartment buildings be very successful with tact planning. The repetition lends itself really, really well. Um, Although it's still applicable for those jobs that aren't repetitive, because then we start to look at work density and how much work do we have in each area, and really start to get strategic about how we break up areas to plan work. So yeah, we've got a ton of examples we're going to talk about in the training of where this planning method has been successful in the past, and where you can get more information on how to start incorporating it into your planning and scheduling efforts. Absolutely. In fact, white papers have just started to be written in the last 5 years or so, led by buddies of mine, Dr. Marco Benninger and Dr. Janos Stuli, both out of Germany, and Jason Schroeder with Lean Takt had just wrote this book. It is a fantastic book that really makes tact planning simple. It's inspiring me with some ideas in here. So I'd highly recommend some of those research opportunities, but it's fresh, it's young, it's in its infancy, and it's a fantastic way to establish flow on projects and visualize that flow to make it simple for everybody to see and comprehend. And so, yes, it's a fairly new system. It works really well with last planner system. So, folks that have taken, the AGC's CM Lean program, you understand the last planner system and how important that is into breaking work down into daily goals so that we can measure our performance based on how much variation is hitting us on a daily and weekly basis. And so this is a way to be able to balance and create better batches of work so that you set those weekly targets so that you're able to understand what work is in each wagon, how are we sharing spaces, how are we flowing through our buildings, what areas are priorities to the owner, to the architect. I mean, these are all discussions we're having through conditions of satisfaction and other things that we're using to establish TAC plans. And then more importantly, as we go out into the construction side of this, right? Because construction's only successful, or I'm sorry, planning's only successful if we execute the plan. And so there's a constant shift of mindset back and forth from planning to construction, and TACT applies in both aspects. When we start to understand production laws and the science behind why TACT works, it's years and years of folks who have studied production and get things moving faster in construction to really fix the statistics that you mentioned early on in this recording here. Absolutely. Again, easy to communicate the schedule and what you're thinking, what your expectations are, all on one page. You see the critical flow moving through the document. You see how different phases relate to one another. It's just magic when you can put your schedule plan into a visual format to make it simple for everybody to see. I mean, that's what we're after. We're not hiding logic, right? Where everything's right there. And when things don't go as planned, we're not breaking logic to start and stack, because it's very easy to see when the same color, which is the same trade, is stacked from area to area. And so um, yeah, again, it's give it 5, 10 years, and I'm telling you right now, CPM, it's on its way out the door, and tag planning is coming in, and it's going to make wonderful changes, much needed changes to our folks in the field who are actually doing the work. We're really respecting them by being able to clear the road, get rid of all the roadblocks, make work ready, and execute via tech construction. So I hope to see folks out there. What else? What else you got, Miss Caroline? What else is on your mind with regards to this new planning and scheduling method? And we're limiting seats, right? We said 25 seats, no more, because again, we want to break it up and get into intimate groups where we can share learnings back and forth. Because I learned so much in these events, just the same that I expect others to learn as well. Awesome. Well, what do you think, Miss Caroline? How was the first live stream experience? Well, we got it. Of course, absolutely. We're always experimenting, always willing to get better here, because that's just what lean builders do. And so I'm bummed we didn't get any comments out there in the Omniverse, though. So we're going to have to step our game up for the next time we do this, and see what kind of action and information we can spark up. So Thank you for joining me, Miss Caroline, and we will see y'all there.